another edition of Jofo in the Ring. And yes, my name is Frank Jofo, and we have a special broadcast. We have the man. He's handsome. He's brave. He's strong. He's Jacques Rougeau, the Mountie. What's going on, Jacques?
How you doing, Frank?
Very good, very good. And last but not least, he was seen on AEW Collision this past Saturday in Toronto. He is the harbinger of truth, Jeremy Prophet. What's going on, brother?
I am doing fantastic, feeling good, looking almost as good as that t-shirt that you're wearing, which is a thing of beauty. And really glad to be back on here with two of my favorite people. On one hand, we have the man who trained me, who's been such a great influence on my career and has helped me along the way. And then we have the man that I've pretty much done the same for, and you, Frank, as I carry you all the time in our podcast that we do. So, yeah, this is a lot of fun. Two great friends of mine, and let's give the people what they want.
Well, let's get into the action right away. I know we're going to start off with talking about your experience at AEW Collision. Right after that, we're going to be talking about Lutte Academie. August 20th is just around the corner. But, Jeremy, talk to me about that experience at AEW Collision. Talk to me about the steps going towards that day, and how was it for you on AEW Collision on Saturday?
Well, what it comes down to is you got to be ready whenever you get that call. So with me, it's not a case of getting ready. I stay ready. I don't have to get in shape because, you know, I'm always training. I'm always trying to make sure that I'm at the top of my game. So the call, it didn't come as early as for most people that were there. I got it pretty much days before the event. And so I said, yeah, I can be there. I can be anywhere. You know, you call me, give me, 24 hours, give me 12 hours. I'll make sure I can get there. I live on standby. I live being ready for those big opportunities because you never know in this business when the opportunity is going to come. So, I live for that. And believe me, it's not easy to just drop everything and be there. But I want this more than anything. I want to make my living doing this in wrestling. So those few opportunities that we get, especially as Canadians, we got to seize them. And that's what it was like for me. Getting there, being there. I just tried to stay as mentally ready as possible. And, just tried to make sure that I'm not setting myself up for any disappointment, because I had kind of felt like I knew what I was getting into. But in this business, things can always change. So I had to be ready to accept the best and worst case scenarios. I had to be ready to accept that the whole thing could have just fallen apart days before, even minutes before. So until I was in the ring and they rang the bell, I was still saying, hey, anything could happen. I just got to take this all in and savor the moment and make sure that I do the very best with whatever I'm given.
Which you did.
Well, you know what? We're all proud. I know Jacques is very proud as well. Jacques, what was your feeling knowing and seeing Jeremy Prophet, winner of Lutte Academie last year, participating in the first AEW Collision in Canada? And by the way, you were the first one to participate at the AEW Dark Elevation tapings as well in Canada. So that's something 2 times that nobody else has done except for you. So Jacques, how do you feel?
Well, I feel just amazing. I saw this big wave on social medias, and it was incredible to think of the days that Jeremy came to my wrestling school when he was very young, a young pup. And then to see that the first day that AEW came to Canada, and they took him on Rampage and Dynamite, and him and Jessica, and it was just amazing. They're in the record books as the first match ever for AEW in Canada. It's Jeremy Prophet, and Jessica Black, and the 2 winners of Wrestling Academy. How can I be any happier? And then a few days ago, it was amazing. Jeremy calls me up. He says, Jacques, I got a scoop for you. He says, there's a good chance that I'm going to be wrestling, in Collision. I said, no way. He says, yeah. He says, I don't want to count on it. He says, I don't want you to tell anybody, because if it doesn't happen, I don't want us to do false publicity. So of course, it was so hard for me, Frank, for about 4 days ahead of time to know this and not say a word. So every day I was calling Jeremy, any update, Jeremy? And actually, he probably thought I was a pest, But it was so amazing to see it's funny because there's always, when you go into events like that they're international events and they're worldwide events, then you go into an event like that and they have what they call dark matches, which are matches before that the show goes on the air. They always have warm-up matches for the crowd and for the locals and stuff. So that being said, I was like, wow, like the show started and Jeremy didn't show up, like he told me he was beyond there, but I didn't see him, and then the first match went by, second match went by, and the third match went by, and I told my girlfriend, I said, no, he's not going to be on the show. I said, the show's getting too hot now. The show is really getting too warm and too big. And then if it's not the last match, just before the last match, and I see Jeremy, and it was amazing. And there's so many things we'll be able to talk about during this show, but the great things that he accomplished, Jeremy, like, going in there, doing a favor to a guy, Hobbs, that I trained per, gave a little bit of advice to in Atlanta when I passed by. It's so funny because when I went to Nightmare Factory, I gave him, and we talked. It's so funny because we talked too, me and him, like, and I thanked Hobbs for what he did for Jeremy, and a lot of people say, well, Jesus Christ, Jeremy got beat up and this and that. Well, wait, let me tell you something, guys. And I know that you guys are professionals, that, but there's a lot of people out there that don't understand that. And I've always said that, and everywhere I went, like, to create Batman, you need a great Joker. And, and if you don't have a good heel, you can't have a great baby face. It takes two to dance. And this guy here, Hobbs, when that match was over with, contrary to a lot of people who felt like, oh, man, Jeremy didn't look too good in there, the only thing I was thinking, the only thing going through my mind, I was so happy. I had thrills through my body. I was saying, what a great feeling. I wish I was a bird or a bee or a fly to go see Tony Khan's face now and QT Marshall, who trusted Jeremy and put him in that position to make this guy look good. That was his job. And what a perfect job he did. And so I was thrilled to death seeing the beating that Jeremy took and selling it well. And when that match was over, I looked at Hobbs and I said to myself, any wrestling fan who's watching this show right now is going to say, oh man, that big black guy is going to get a push, man. Holy mackerel, he's going to get a hell of a push. Like, and so Jeremy Prophet created Hobbs on that night. And that's what his job. So that's what I was so proud of. And Jeremy went there and he did it with a smile. They asked him to jump, and Jeremy said, well, how high you want me to jump? And, and that's the kind of student that I wanted to create. That's the kind of guy I wanted to represent Wrestling Academy. And that's the kind of guy I'm glad to have as a friend.
Well, you know what? If years from now, or I think even months from now, I think if Powerhouse Hobbs does become a world champion, I think the journey started with the match with Jeremy. And you know what? Kudos to you, Jeremy. And you did the job for Powerhouse Hobbs. You made him look like $1 million. What was the reaction from everybody in the back on your match, Jeremy, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I wasn't there to hear it, obviously, because I was in the ring. But one of the things I wanted to accomplish was I just said, I want this to be vicious. I want it to be violent. I want to make sure that people are on the edge of their seat, and most important of all, that people watching at home aren't going to change the channel. Because a lot of times you see a match come up and it's like, okay, well, it's a guy under contract against the local guy. We usually know how these things go. So I said, I want this to be quick and violent and just like action, so that people aren't like, okay, well, I'll change the channel. I'll see what's going on the baseball game tonight. I want to make sure they're glued to their seats, because even though maybe the outcome might be something that we know is predictable, the action is going to be what keeps them hooked in. So Jeremy, I love the way the match. Yes, Jeremy,
what he's trying to say, Frank, is your reaction after you went back to the dressing room. Like, when you got back in the dressing room after you did that, and Tony Khan said, thank you very much. And he shook his hand there. When you went back to the dressing room after that, how was it how was Hobbs when he came to see you? Was he, I know I would have been thrilled to death, like, to have a guy like you did what you do. How did that happen?
Oh yeah. Everyone involved in the segment, they were all very happy with it. From my opponent to the coach to when I went right up to Tony, I shook his hand. I thanked him for the opportunity. And then from what I was told, I kind of made the joke backstage and said, my whole thing is I wanted everyone to be watching on the monitor in the back and say, oh, is he hurt? Did he got killed in there? Is this guy is he gonna be walking around like with a concussion or hurt? And I was told by the other wrestlers who were watching, they said, yeah, that was pretty much the reaction from everybody watching it. It was exactly what I went for. So that was great. Even the next day, I'll go this far. Even the next day, I had people coming up to me who would watch the match. and they said, like, "Are you okay? Was everything fine in there?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it was fine." I've taken bigger meetings than that before, and still here, still good looking, still able to tell the tale.
Jeremy, I was thinking, if I was one of the wrestlers backstage like that, and I saw that match, you did such a great job that I would be probably one of the wrestlers who would say, "I don't want to work against Hobbs." Oh no, because he looked like he killed you. And you told me he was one of the nicest and smoothest guys around.
Yeah, I'd work with Hobbs any day of the week. I'd work him 7 days a week and twice on Sunday, like they say. And yeah, definitely. I think that the goal was to show just how dominant and how devastating he is. And at the same time, for me, it's like I want to go in there and show that, hey, if you work with Jeremy Prophet, I will go above and beyond to make you look outstanding in there. If you're a 5-star wrestler, I want to make you look like a 10-star wrestler in there.
And you could do that, Jeremy.
I think that's what you did, Jeremy. That's what you did, Jeremy. Besides shaking hands with Tony Khan, was there other wrestlers that you talked to in the back, interacted with after the match, and even before?
Oh yeah, I mean, I try to talk to everybody. It's such a talent-filled roster that you would be a fool in this business to not try to go and pick the brains of these people who have been all over the world, who've made a ton of money, and to try to learn a little bit of their secret sauce, a little bit of what makes them the athletes that they are. And thankfully, a lot of them were very kind to spend time with me, give me good advice. We're talking about guys like Mark Henry, like Chris Jericho, who is a big influence on my career, huge influence. And the amount of time that he took to talk with me after the match. We actually spoke first before the match, and then especially after the match. Took a great deal of time to talk with me and share some advice. And then also even CM Punk, and it's the story that's kind of making the rounds a bit on the news sites. But yeah, right before going out for his match, after mine, we had a moment there where we talked, and he was very nice, very, very kind and gracious, especially before going out in front of a hostile Canadian crowd, and he took the time to talk with me. He took the time to talk with a lowly extra who's there, who just so happened to be blessed with getting to be on the same card as him.
Now, wait a minute, Jeremy. You have a reputation that's following you now, Jeremy. You're like you're an icon in wrestling, in independent wrestling, and you may not know this, but a lot of people knows you just from the reputation of you being such a great talent. So I'm sure that he knew who you were. I'm sure that everybody knew who you were when you got there, although you're so humble about it. But I'm telling you that your name is circulating. And you know why your name is circulating? Because every time they come into town, AEW or the big companies, they always ask, who's the best talent? Who's the best talent? And your name always comes up, Jeremy. You're one of the best talents in Canada. And and you introduced me a few for Wrestling Academy, and I have the luxury, Frank, that I have two luxuries right now. I got to tell you, people. The first one is having Frank Jofo as a commentator in the ring there, animating the Wrestling Academy. That's just awesome. You're awesome, Frank, by the way. I want you to know that. You did very well, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the 20th. And having Jeremy Prophet beside me as a commentator will making me look so bad, because, he knows what he's doing. But all this to say that I'm honored to be with you guys there. But so no, when the companies come to town, they always ask around. They always talk to the nice guys, the stooges, the haters, and they always ask around and who are the best talent in town. And I'm telling you, Jeremy Prophet, you're a legend.
Well, I try to keep myself as humble as possible, but I do believe in my abilities because I work for this. I work at this every single day. I eat, breathe, sleep professional wrestling, and I want to be the best I can be. I do believe I am the best in Canada. They say the key to getting to one of these major companies like AEW is to get over on the independents. I do not believe there is anyone in Canada who performs at the level I do as often as I do. It's getting to a point where it's ridiculous. Of every show I'm on, I am the best match. And that's not from me. I'm not saying I'm the best match, but you ask the fans. Very rarely Very rarely am I not the best match on it.
You had the best match in Wrestling Academy last year in 2022 against that. You had many good matches, but Kyle Zachary's match and the back and forth with the promos was absolutely awesome. And then against Matsis and who was the other guy in the Matsis in the three-way there at the end? KL Shock, what a nice guy, and then again, so you always do have the greatest matches, but you know what? What I've liked the most about you, Jeremy, I'll tell you what, is that whether you're in the ring, whether you're on the microphone, or whether you're just backstage, like you do every time we're at Wrestling Academy and you go see the talent and you help them put their match together. And I noticed that every time you put your nose into a match, it's the best match of the evening. Even if you're not in it, it's because you got great psychology, you share that psychology, and you're an asset to the business.
Well, thank you. I appreciate all that high praise. I pride myself on what I do. I want to be the best. It's, no matter what I'm given, whether it's being given 2 minutes on AEW Collision with Hobbs, whether it's being given 10 minutes, 12 minutes with Kyle Zachary on Wrestling Academy. I want my work, my body of work, to speak for itself. And I take a lot of pride in it.
Jeremy, there's a point I got to bring to you that I think already, but a lot of the fans, they or the people sometimes, especially some haters, they don't quite understand you, and I want to pinpoint something that's very important. When you are a guy, and I had the same problem too when I was in the WWE and WWF, I had a lot of heat on my back because, I was always the guy who would show up an hour early. I was always the guy who would show up like 100%. My mind and my brain 100% focused on what I'm doing. My head was all there. I was the kind of guy after the show that I'd go to bed. I'd make sure that I was rested up for the next day. And I was always the guy with Raymond and then with Carl or myself just going to the gym every day. Just doing so. So when you do all these sacrifices and you do it day after day after day, then when you look around in the dressing room sometimes, and you look around at the guys that are around and they're just worried about their party that night or which nightclub they're going to go at or something like that, it kind of makes you feel like you don't have as much empathy with them. But, sometimes it comes across bad in the dressing room. It comes across who does he think he is, Well, that's the problem, haters and guys that don't know what you're doing out there and you don't want to make this a lifetime deal. The problem is that if you don't do all these things professionally, you're never going to make it. You're never going to make it. And if you do make it for a little time because you got a boost or because you knew somebody at the right place at the right time, it's not going to last. So, so that's why I understand you so much, Jeremy. And a lot of people say, hey, you seem to like Jeremy a lot. We noticed when you talk, when you do business with him and everything. I do, because you are the kind of guy that I was when I was young too. I give 100% of myself into what I do. And those who don't do that, I kind of have a little less respect for them, and maybe it showed in my face. Maybe that's why I was a little hated too in the WWF. If you listen to the podcast of Bruce Pritchard, you'll see he's only one of them that says it. Yeah. But it's the truth. But we'll get back to that later. All this to say, Jeremy, that everybody's got to understand when you're a human being, giving yourself 100%, 110%, 25 hours a day. Then you got to make sure that you respect that person and understand that person, that they're going to look at their business or life, that it's the only thing that counts. And if you want to waste your time and your energy elsewhere that's negative, then you're going to lose some pointers with that person.
Mm-hmm.
Did I explain myself correctly there?
You did very well. And I kind of want to piggyback off of that because it lights a fire in me hearing that. And I appreciate it a lot because I love this business and I love this business and I take it very seriously. Like people will ask in interviews, what's your favorite part of wrestling? Is it the interactions with the fans? Is it the road trips with the guys? Is it the after parties? And I tell them, my favorite part of wrestling is the wrestling, is the thing that we are so blessed to be paid to do, to get in the ring, to perform. That is my priority. It's not the socializing. It's not the going out and I don't even drink. I'm a straight edge person. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I don't do me. It's my drug of choice is wrestling. And that is my priority. And that's what I dedicate myself to. And yeah, maybe there are people who are a little bit haters because people like to fit in with the majority, which is sometimes in the middle. You know, they like to kind of be the 1 foot in wrestling, 1 foot in the socializing. Me, it's both feet in the wrestling. And maybe I don't have as much respect for those people because I work damn hard day in, day out to be successful at this. And, you know, I'm not going to let somebody take that away from me, or somebody who's the, you know, person who is maybe not putting in the time in the gym, not putting in the time in the ring, and just trying to have an easy match and take money under false pretense, talk like they're on equal footing with me. I work too damn hard to, you know, rate myself as a second-class citizen to just try to fit in. So if people don't like it,
Jeremy,
that's too bad for them.
Let me ask you this, Jeremy. Let's now on this positive note now, because, you know, I think this is very positive what we said, but I just wanted to explain to the people how I had a lot of haters, and why you have a lot of haters is because we're perfectionists. And when we're perfectionists, we expect the same thing of people around us. And we don't like to see people around that are, excuse my word, but they're bitching about their position, bitching about what they're not getting when they're not giving 100% of themselves. So anyway, long story said, now let's go into the positive note. If you don't mind, Frank, I'm going to let you, let's go into Wrestling Academy, because, you know, I'd like to talk about that a little bit.
With many participants eliminated from the competition, the tension rises for those remaining in Jacques Rougeau's Wrestling Academy. C'est le temps de voir l'élite de Lutte Academie de Jacques Rougeau se diriger vers le sommet de la montagne. It's time, like the Macho Man used to say, the green rises to the top, oh yeah. Préparez-vous, on s'en va en demi-finale. Get ready, we're going to the semi-finals. Il y a 19 personnes toujours en lice pour gagner l'un des 3 prix de $10,000. There's 19 participants still aiming for one of 3 prizes of $10,000 et 3 mois haut and 3 months at the Nightmare Factory with QT Marshall, Cody Rhodes and Billy Gunn. Voici la carte des combats du 20 août prochain au Club Soda de Montréal. Here are the matches scheduled for August 20th at Montreal's Club Soda. The King, Brandon Bright, versus the Lion Warrior, Bobby Sharp. Combat à 3, triple threat match. The Salsa King, John Gonzalez, versus Jesse Beaver, versus Jefferson James. Nikita versus Zoe Sager. Combat 3 contre 3, 3 versus 3 tag match. Stephen Maines, Gabriele Savage avec Michael Plouf, Bjorg Hacken with Sugar Shane Pinto versus Maverick Wheeler, Sean Moore, Clutch Jesse B. Combat par équipe, tag team action. Casey Spinelli, Relentless Riley Rose versus Cat Von Eves, Zondra Lee. Michael Richard Blais versus Chad Daniels. Vous pouvez regarder les quarts de finale sur le www.lutteacademie.ca. You can watch the quarterfinals on www.wrestling-academy.ca. Avez-vous vos billets pour la demi-finale au Club Soda? Do you have your tickets for the semi-finals at Club Soda? Trop tard, too late. Mais vous pouvez acheter vos billets pour la finale du 17 septembre sur le site du Club Soda, mais faites vite. But you can purchase your tickets for the September 17th finals on the Club Soda website, but do act quickly.
So there you go. Lutte Academy, August 20th is the semifinal. Jacques, I see the excitement in your eyes. Let's talk about it here. What's the cream rises to the top? How excited do you get when you watch these videos?
It's incredible, you know. It's like I'm looking at this and I'm saying to myself, like, this is incredible that we are where we're at. You know, there's so many things I want to shoot out to you right now. Like, you know, we're sold out for the 20th of August. It's the first time in 2 years since Wrestling Academy. We usually sell out every show, but like 2 days, 3 days ahead of time. This one was sold out 2 months ahead of time. You know, and people are starting to talk about it around the world of wrestling. And then we're already selling tickets for the 17th of September. That's 2 shows from now. And we have 270 tickets gone out of 400, you know, and there's 130 tickets left. So it's like, this is amazing phenomena. I'm getting I can't wait to go through these matches one by one, because I got Jeremy Prophet here, who knows everybody, I'm learning to know everybody, and you too, Frank. You're starting to know everybody since you're in the ring and you've seen the matches. So why don't we just go ahead and start talking about this whole thing? So, Jeremy, you start this off. What's your pick between Brandon Bright and Bobby Sharp?
Well, I won't give my pick until it's actually match time, because it's not about what you've done. It's about what you do on that night. Plus, as a commentator, I try to stay as unbiased as possible. But I'll give you my thoughts on the match, because I know both of these gentlemen. Now, it's interesting because Bobby Sharp, I was on a tour with him back in 2013 out in the Maritimes for Emile Dupree. We wrestled. We were on a tour for 30 days. Didn't really get to do much. But then on the next tour, it was a 21-day tour, I think, and we wrestled every night on that tour. So I've been in the ring with him a lot. But you can't just assume that somebody 10 years ago is the same wrestler they are now. There's a lot of room for people to get better, a lot of room for people to maybe get worse. So with Bobby, I know he's coming off of 2 severe, almost career-ending injuries. So his story is incredible. He had hip replacement, which is really an unfortunate thing for a guy who's a good amount of years younger than me to have had. And then he had an injury to his, I believe, his Achilles tendon not too long after. So the name The Lion Warrior, it's not just a tagline. I mean, that's really what he lives by, because to come back from that, you have to be a warrior and you have to have the heart of a lion. So I know Bobby very well. Brandon Bright, the King, I met him recently in Saskatchewan. And he's a lot like me. Like, he loves the business. He said something to me after the first round of Wrestling Academy, and he was someone who came to me for advice. I gave him the advice, and he took it. And I think he shined like a star in the 6-man tag where he advanced. And he said to me, man, if I don't have professional wrestling in my life, I don't have anything. And I can relate to that because, I have a tremendous love for this business. So it's a case where I think either person who advances, it's going to be somebody who's passionate about the wrestling business, somebody who is going to go down to Atlanta, is going to do the work, and wants to make the most of this opportunity. Again, just breaking it down on a more technical aspect, I think that Bobby has the huge experience advantage, but Brandon, he's a great athlete in there, and he has a lot of the tools too. So this is going to be one of the better matches on the card. 2 guys that I like a lot, and personally, I'm not going to feel any disappointment regardless of who advances, because it's going to be somebody who loves this business.
Well, Jeremy, I got to tell you, Frank, if you permit myself, I'd like to give my opinion too. There's some things that I want to bring up a few things about these 2 guys. I didn't know either one of them before the competition start this year. So, but I met them each one time now in Montreal for the quarterfinals each time, and I got to tell you that. Bobby Sharp, what a great, nice person. He's and his girlfriend that's in the competition too. There, Kat Von Ease. It's his wife actually that's in this competition. I didn't know that. Oh wow. Yeah. It's his wife, and so I love Bobby Sharp's attitude. He's always there. I ask him for a promo. I ask him for something. He's right on the ball, and he even it's funny and. There's so many things I could say about Bobby Sharp that really turns me on as far as being a wrestling fan, and just looking at him perform. And the last match he had at the quarterfinals against Sean Moore was absolutely a masterpiece, because he was the last match of the evening. He had to carry the whole load and finish after everybody saw everything. He had to come and do better, which, him and Sean Moore did tremendously. To the point that my brother Raymond, who was judge, he chose both of them. He made them both pass. So that was just amazing. And then you got Brandon Bright there, who, I didn't know him at all either. He came up to meet me at the quarterfinals, and what a nice person in that. And it's so funny because just about a week ago, he sent me an email, a messenger, and he said, Jacques, he says, is there any advice you could give me, like to help me move on? Is there something you'd like? And I said, well, Brendan, I said, I don't know you very much, and to be honest with you, I didn't pick you in the quarterfinals either. It was QT Marshall who picked you. You weren't even one of my picks, because it was a 6-man. I didn't have time to see a lot of him, and there was Magnum. What was his name?
Magnum McLaren.
Magnum McLaren, that I had an eye on him, because he's like a Ric Flair, Jericho, all mixed together. And he didn't pass, so QT went with Brendan. So after that, then I start after his elimination. After he passed on the 7th of May, I start studying a little bit. Brendan Bright. I went to see a few things of him, and when he asked me for the advice, it's so funny because he said, I ask all the guys for a promo, like a minute promo to put some hype on the show, and stuff like that. And Brendan Bright sent me an interview, and then right after that, he says, "What do you think, Jacques? What do you think, Jacques?" I says, "Well, I like it, but there's just one little thing there." And like you said, Jeremy, he's so coachable. Because then I went like this, and I gave him a little piece of advice. He said, "Oh, well, let me do another one. So he sent me another one, and then he said, "So how do you think, Jacques? What do you think it is?" I said, "Well, that's better." I said, "But now there's one little thing, you didn't mention QT Marshall in there, the Nightmare Factory, and that's important. If you want to get those brownie points, you got to put QT Marshall in there, And then, so he says, "Let me do another one. So the guy was like, I liked his attitude. Like, I'm gonna do anything I have to, So now, to be honest with you, I don't know him that much as a wrestler. It's going to be amazing, Jeremy. I guess I listened to what you said. I can't wait to see both in the ring. But you know what? They're both first-class guys. They're likable. So whoever passes, I'll be happy and I'll be sad.
Yep.
And you know what? I can't wait to introduce one of them there too as well. But for me, Jeremy was talking a lot about Bobby Sharp, and I looked at a lot of his matches too as well. I didn't know him before Jeremy told me, and even his opponent as well. So it's great to see that wrestlers that you don't know from before, now you're getting to recognize them, and you get to support them. You follow them on social media, you comment on their pictures, and you watch their matches. It goes a long way. And you know what? It's thanks to Lutte Academie. So hopefully, maybe both of them will be in the final. We don't know, but
no, it ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. Okay. Hey, now it's QT Marshall that's gonna be the judge, not my brother Raymond. Okay, and QT Marshall, he has authority. Like he's and that's his school. The Nightmare Factory is his school. So he's gonna go ahead and pick. That's for sure. And I can't wait to see, because we all got to remember one thing. Yeah. QT Marshall's a funny kind of guy, So we all gotta wait and see, because we so many times I picked somebody, I thought I had him, and QT Marshall surprised me enough for me to go in the commentary and saying, "Holy shit!" Like, holy shit.
That's a competition for you right there. You just never know who is going to advance. QT knows who's going to advance. It's all up to him. So we're going to have to wait and see August 20th to see about this match. Let's check out the next match here.
All right.
The Salsa King, John Gonzalez, Jesse Bieber, Jefferson James. Jeremy, I know that for myself, the guy that stood out the most, and it's pretty crazy for me, two guys that stood out the most at the last event. Salsa King, he's always dancing, never stops. And Jesse Bieber's got charisma coming out of the wazoo. So I would love to see one of those two men. Jefferson James, you never know. What do you guys think?
Jeremy.
Yep. So I guess I'll go first. So this is an interesting match for me, because the only one I've really been in the ring with is Jesse Bieber. And we were in the ring very briefly in a battle royal in Ontario on the Six Nations Native Reserve. But I know his father very well, and that's something that goes a long way in wrestling when you grow up in the business. I've worked with his father many times, probably close to 20, 30 times in the ring. So I know that his father has excellent wrestling psychology. He's a great athlete, and he's actually a very successful promoter right now in Canada. So when you grow up in the business, as Jacques can attest to, there are things that you just have inherently that, someone like myself, who's a first generation wrestler, I wouldn't have before I set foot in the ring. And Jesse very much has the veteran instincts. He's well ahead of his time in terms of how long he's been working and his age. So he's really good at what he does. And I definitely think that he's someone who stands out. If you ask me, I feel that there was a tie at the last show for overall best performance. I personally found the two best performances were Jesse Bieber and Michael Richard Blais. So I hope that he can achieve the same level of notoriety, the same connection with the audience this time around. But it's not as easy when you're in there in a triple threat match like that, because you're sharing the spotlight with two other people. Now, John Gonzalez, I don't know him. I've never been in the ring with him. Definitely a colorful character, much like Jesse. Definitely has a great body. I think that for me, I'm curious to see what he brings in terms of his wrestling ability, because clearly, he has a great look and a ton of charisma. But I think that you need to be the total package. You know, if I just relied on my body and my charisma, I would be incomplete. So I like to see someone who has all the tools and are sharpening those tools constantly. And Jefferson James, I mean, he's an underdog. I'll be honest, I didn't pick him. In fact, I didn't pick him or John Gonzalez when I was on commentary for their matches, but they made it through. You know, it's QT deciding. It's not Jeremy Prophet deciding. So Jefferson James, I met him many years ago in the Maritimes. He's been plying his craft. He's been working on, you know, becoming as good as he can be. I find that he's someone who has a very good attitude, and I believe that he's a hard worker. And sometimes it's not about being talented. Sometimes it's you can get outworked. I think there are a lot of people throughout Wrestling Academy who got through on the fact that they worked very hard, more so than on natural talent. Because if you take your foot off the gas, then you're going to get passed. You're going to get lapped in any kind of a race. So this is one that's pretty close. I think that it really could go in either of those three directions. And I think that QT will see the match, and it's going to come down to what he likes.
Wow, you know, it's amazing. You know, you took the words out of my mouth there, Jeremy. I don't feel like I have anything left to say, but I'll list to say. I'm going to go ahead and repeat myself then. Repeat what you said. I feel the same way. Jefferson James, for me, was a no at the beginning. You know, he didn't. My eyes were not set on him. He didn't draw the attention. And now, you know, it's so funny because him again. I've been working with him. He's been doing a lot of promotions locally. He went to the news. He went to the TV news. He's pushing for himself. He's pushing hard. He's always asking advice. He's so polite. And like you said, he's a go-getter. You know, and sometimes, you know, that could fall into the good eye of the judge, you know, like a guy who wants to go ahead and make it happen. You know, he'll do anything to make it happen. So he's going to do all the efforts to make it happen. So I'm going to keep an eye more on him this time. You know, he's more appealing to me now after I've talked and worked with him. I kind of like what I see out of this young kid. John Gonzalez, Salsa. Man, I hate him because he seduced my girlfriend. So anyway, I just, but you know, it's like this guy could dance, man. I could never dance like that. You know, forget about it. You know, I don't have the steps. And for him to wrestle and do the steps, you know, that was something that kind of made me laugh, you know, during the match. I thought it was funny until I saw him do an arm drag, which was amazing. He did a nice, beautiful wrestling arm drag. And I said, wait a minute now. I said, this guy doesn't know only how to dance. This guy has charisma. He knows how to wrestle. Now, how good does he wrestle? We didn't see much of him in the six-man the last time. So it's going to be hard to I want to see more about him. So I'm going to keep an eye on him. And then finally, you know, it's the same thing as you know, a second generation of Jesse Bieber, you know, not Justin Bieber, but Jesse Bieber. And you know, it's like for me, you know, this guy seduced the whole crowd, you know, with his charisma. He pulled some strings. He did some things that reminded me of the fabulous Rougeau brothers. Yes. He went from the outside and he interfered at the right time, at the right place, behind the referee's back. You know, it was so amazing. He had such knowledge in that ring that I saying, oh, he's a dangerous one. He's one there that could that if QT Marshall is the guy I think he is. You know, I love all three of those guys, and I don't like to go out like this and say, but he's you don't have to ask me to keep an eye on this guy. He always has my attention the whole match. You know, whether he's on the apron or in the ring, he always has my attention. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see who goes out there. And you know, it's all about one thing, too, guys. You know, like you said, Jeremy, you could be as good in the world, you could be the best wrestler in the world, but it's got to be your night. And some nights you go out there, you perform, and sometimes it's just a great night, and sometimes you're doing the same thing you did last night was a great night, but it's just a bad night. Timing wasn't there, things didn't happen, it wasn't so it's going to be who goes out there on the 20th of August and who has that lucky night, I think.
Yeah. For sure. And you know what, just to continue with Bieber, I found that he was always noticeable everywhere, and that shows like you said, like the Rougeaus, when you were in the ring, Jacques, everyone knew where you were, you had that loud voice, you were, you know, so for him to advance, I personally think he has a very good chance of going to the finals. If QT's listening, you never know, but we'll see. So we'll go on to the next match.
Now, do you really think that Cutie is listening to you, Frank Jofo?
Hey, you know what? I'm going to have the opportunity to announce him in the finals. So QT, if you're listening.
That's true. It's amazing. Yeah, he's going to be there on the 17th of September in Montreal, and you're going to be the guy who's going to introduce him. So he better be nice to you.
I have to be nice to him. We're going on to the next match here.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right away, guys, and let's say it as how it is. Nikita has pulled out of the competition. She has pulled out for personal reasons, and so now we're caught up in a little situation here at Wrestling Academy because Zoe Sager texted me again today and told me, say, Jacques, I'm in, you know, so who am I wrestling, you know? And then I said, well, we're gonna have to rearrange some matches, so I don't quite know. The thing that I do know is Nikita, I don't know if it's because of the last the last segment we had at the quarterfinals where she was almost not picked, you know, within her and Zondra Lee, who was new, because we had our choices made, Casey Spinelli and Emma McVaney, which was Smiley Miley, and I don't know what happened with Jane M, but you know, I feel bad because I say to myself, whether you're in this competition and you don't think you're at a point where you may win this competition, you still got to stay in there because QT's a funny kind of guy, you know, and QT may see something in you that you don't see in yourself and that we don't see in yourself. So, you know, I don't know if it's because she pulled out because she felt like she was maybe, you know, outclassed or whatever the reason might be, but personal reasons, but it's a sad situation because now we're caught up in a position now at Wrestling Academy where we got to start moving the matches around. We have another four-way a tag team match with the girls that I may have to break up, you know, and so we're in a situation now that's a little awkward. So anyway, I know one thing for sure I could tell you is Zoe Sager is going to be there, and she's a little tiger. She is a tiger. I've seen her for the first time, the last time she was there, and I couldn't believe that little body in that ring, you know, just taking so much space and impressing me so much. So let's wait and see. So then the girls situation, guys, we're gonna go ahead and talk about the girls later, the other match too, about them personally, but we don't know at this point who's gonna be against who. We're actually looking for something special. I talked to somebody very special today. I can't give you the scoop right now because we're waiting. We're waiting on a passport situation. Okay. But we may have an American girl come in there and fulfill the place of Nikita. So if that happens, I know a lot of people are going to be happy to see her. So anyway, So we're waiting on the news. So yeah, I know it's a scoop for you too, Jeremy. I didn't tell you yet, you know. So, but it's okay. You know, I think you'll be very surprised if it happens. It looks good, but it's a passport situation. So let's wait and see.
So if we'll get the news, we'll just have to look at lutteacademy.ca on the Facebook and on your website, and we'll get some info when it does happen.
And I'll give you the scoop. And I'll give you the scoop, Frank, as soon as I get it. But you know, there's one thing I didn't want to have to see in this competition. We're doing it with Jefferson James and with Jesse Bieber and John Gonzalez. It's a three-way. You know, it's a hard match to judge. It's a hard match for the boys themselves to shine, and you know, it's a hard situation to make everybody even in that match, you know, to have their 2 minutes of glory. But with the girls, I wanted to do it less because, you know, with three girls in the ring, it's another situation where it's awkward. You know, there's one that's going to feel like she was left out a bit or didn't have her time to shine. So I didn't want to do that. But now I'm in a position where I may have to do that, where there's going to be a match, singles one-on-one, and the tag team will become a three-way because we're going to have to pull one girl out of that tag team and bring her with Zoe Sager and have three girls together. So now who I'm going to put together with the three girls, it's another story. So hopefully we'll get some positive news from that American girl that's going to come in and just, I guess, and we're going to have to figure out, there's so many things that happen in Wrestling Academy, because we got to remember, guys, we're in a learning process right now. You know, as we're growing, we're meeting some problems, some situations that I didn't encounter, that I didn't look or foresee. So now it's like I'm like a virgin in this. Like, you know, I don't know it's like I got to take some decisions, make some decisions. I often call Jeremy to have some advice, you know. So but we're gonna have to look at this and how we could deal with the situation to make it even for everybody. But it's a sorry thing that I think that the people that and we don't have that very much on the men's side, you know, that all the men that subscribed, participated, they, even if they knew that there was some better than them, they still came, and they're still coming, and they're still giving their 100%. So hopefully we'll have to try to find a way, Jeremy, next year to give some incentive to the people that once they feel like there's someone better than them in the competition, to keep them in there, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I think so. Two things stand out to me in this. I personally don't think that the three ways are really the end of the world. I mean, taking it from someone who the finals, their final match, myself, was a three-way. Jessica had to go through a three-way with two other girls in her semifinal match. Look, it is a bit of an obstacle, but at the same time, in this business, you got to be prepared for those kinds of matches. I'm the first person who will say I don't mind the matches that aren't just a singles match or a tag match. Like, I actually enjoy triple threat matches. I enjoy 6-man tag matches, because I really feel like they open up a whole new set of things you can do. Because, you know, if you're used to just doing singles, then it's you and one opponent. But now if it's two, there's all kinds of new situations you can do. Moves on two people at the same time, taking moves of two people, you know, stuff where it's a whole new dynamic. And I think a lot more people need to embrace that it can be fun. So that's one of the things that stands out, is there is a bit of a precedence for it. And if you're good at what you do, then, you know, you got to show it in all situations.
Well, you know what, Jeremy, I may have to ask you then, if you want to help these three girls that I put together, then you could help them with their match then. Because in my days, it didn't exist. You know, in my days, we didn't see those three ways. I didn't do any three ways. I was like 45 years in the business, and I don't think I ever done one three-way. You know, so one triple threat match. So for me, it's more like an obstacle, because it's unknown territory. But if you feel, and you always do a great job with the talent, Jeremy, the day of the show. So if you want to go ahead and take care of that triple match, and I'll put one together, and I'll just now need to put who's going to be who, and that'll be fun to see what you come up and what you do with them, to make sure that everybody shines equally.
Yep, absolutely. I'm always up for that challenge, and like I said, I like those matches. So for me, it's not hard. It's light work, as they say. The other thing I wanted to say is that I think what kind of got lost here is the mention of Zoe Sager, because she's stuck with the competition. She's in it 100%. And I think she deserves us to talk about her a little bit. And I'll give my thoughts on her, because one of the things that impressed me with her is we were on a show in Vancouver. And I spoke to, there was a women's 3-on-3 match. And I spoke to everyone in that match. And for whatever reason, I didn't get a chance to talk to Zoe about Wrestling Academy. And I was surprised when I said to Jacques, when, you know, he had asked me to help, you know, spread the word and recruit some talent. I let him know that I'd spoken to these women. And the only one on that show that actually got back to Jacques was Zoe, who happened to be the one that I just, for whatever reason, didn't get the time to tell her. So that showed a lot of good initiative. That's something that I like about her, in addition to what she shows in the ring. You know, I think that she's someone who, for what she lacks in stature, she makes up for in athletic ability and in execution in the ring. So,
you know, Jeremy, I got to tell you something. I'm sorry for cutting you off, because I'm afraid I'll forget my idea. But I'm an old man, so I got to cut you off when I have something in my mind. So listen. When she came out the first time, she didn't impress me that much with her live interview on stage. Her presence. She had a tiny voice. She didn't take much room. But then when she came into the ring, she seduced me incredibly as a wrestler, incredibly, and even more after when she did the interview with Jessica backstage. You know, she started crying on the interview, and I couldn't believe it. Like, you know, my God, I almost felt like crying with her. So here's the thing I'm thinking: when she comes out in the semifinals, she's going to have to do it like she did on the last promo. And she's going to have to take more room on that promo because, you know, her ring savvy is incredible. Her prestance is incredible. But the promo, she had one not so good and one fantastic one.
Yeah.
So that's where she's going to have to really work on to pass in the finals.
Yep.
All right, let's go on to the next match here. 6-man tag. We have Stephen Maines, Gabriele Savage, Bjorg Hacken versus Maverick Wheeler, Sean Moore, and Clutch Jesse V. I'm going to tell you something right now. Any of these 6 men could win the tournament right now, in my opinion. What I've seen from them at the last event, Jacques, I know that Gabriele Savage has been doing incredible promo work outside of Lutte Academie. I see it. I know everybody has seen it. What's your thoughts on this match?
Let me go over one by one. I'm going to start with let's go on Gabriele Savage since you're there. He's as green as a young tomato in the garden. You know, he's only got like a year of wrestling but you know what? For what I've seen and you know, I helped him put his match together in the quarterfinals, you know, by Zoom. And I didn't, you know, on paper it was all good, but it's nice to be good on paper, but once you get in the ring, it's another story. And actually, I discovered that the things that he did well, you know, so he knows what to do and he knows what he wants to do that makes him look good, although he's young, he's very young in the business. The other thing that's really going for him is like, Jesus Christ. I think he's done about 30 podcasts, and I think he's done 10 newspapers. He's done 3 TV stations. Every week I'm getting something. Here, Jacques, can I send you this? Can I send this? And then he goes into schools. This guy is like a machine with the social medias. I've never seen that. And I remember when he told me that at the beginning, when the inscriptions came, you know, I told that to QT. I said, you know, QT, I said, this guy's coming in. I said, what a shape, what a body. He's an old MMA. He used to be an MMA fighter. He's got knowledge of being in the crowd and stuff like that. He's a real athlete. He's got a beer in his name. He's got a gym. So he's a go-getter. So his being green, his lack of knowledge in the ring is something that could play against him or for him, because it could play against him because the other 5 guys, they know how to wrestle, you know, that a lot more than him, but they also may have picked up some bad habits on the way, you know. So if you're a guy like QT Marshall who says, hey, listen, this guy's got the body, he's got the marketing, he's got this and that, and he doesn't have any bad habits because he hasn't been wrestling long enough, you know, so he's coachable, you know, he's manageable, so that'll play for him. And now I'm going to Stephen Maines. Stephen Maines, for me, he's a Greek god. And every time he comes around, I always ask my girlfriend to leave the building, you know, because, you know, he's got so many nice abs, you know, Jesus Christ, he makes my belly look bad. And you know, but this guy, you know, this guy is a great talent, great on the promos. He's an all-around total package for me, from Montreal. Yeah. So I'm very proud because he's representing us so well. So, you know, so my heart goes with him a little bit too there, you know, I got to tell you. Yeah. And then going Bjorg Hacken. Bjorg Hacken's another guy I've been helping quite a bit here since he came from Europe a couple of years ago. Huge guy, talented guy. I gave him some advice on something he was doing wrong, and he corrected it right away. So that's a good thing playing in his favor. He said, so now I'm going to Matt Wheeler there, Maverick Wheeler.
Maverick Wheeler.
When he came in the ring, he wasn't my choice at all. You know, it was like he passed, like, you know, he wasn't at all in my picks. And then, you know what? I was sitting at home one day and I was asking myself, why did QT Marshall choose him? And then I went back and I looked at the match. And when I looked at him carefully, I start seeing some things. I start seeing some charisma in his things. I start seeing like he's a go-getter. He's a fast guy. He's got something, that kid, you know. So and now that I've worked with him and I'm starting to say, oh, he's not ready to give his place up yet, man. I'm telling you, he's not big, but he's there, and he's a go-getter. And then I'm passing on to Sean Moore. Sean Moore, man, I got to tell you a funny story real fast. You know, I'm asking promos for everybody for this upcoming show on the 20th of August. So 2 days ago, I get this promo from him. I'm asking everybody for a minute promo, you know, have intensity and, you know, to talk about their opponents and talk about why they want to win this. And then, so I get this promo and it's 2 minutes long. It's a minute overtime. You know, and I'm going to myself, and I already cut down some guys told them because they brought a minute 15, a minute. I said, no, it's too long, it's too long. So this guy sends me a promo, 2 minutes long. But I got to tell you, the promo was just so good. I could eat it up. I'm listening to this guy on the microphone. He's like as good as he was in the ring. He's good on the microphone. He's got intensity. He is the total package. He is one to watch. I'm telling you right now. 100%. Jesse V, he was with us last year. One of the 6 that went to on AEW. He wasn't one of the 4 original winners, but QT chose 2 extra people to go on for the TV tapings and Dynamite and Rampage, and he was one of them, which I look at him and I understand so much. He's got the body. He's got the shape. I mean, he's got the moves in the ring. He does the dives over the top rope. He's about 260 pounds. I don't know, 270. And he's diving like a butterfly over those top ropes, you know, and he's just so impressive. And it's so funny because I've been working with him quite a bit there. And then the last year with his promos, because some guys come out and they obviously think that because they have the body and they have the wrestling that it's okay. And I've been explaining to him that's why you didn't make it last year. And then it's just because you're missing the trio there. And the trio is the promos. You have to be able to give a promo. So I've been helping him a lot. And you know what? He's been coming out with some real good promos now, like, you know, more intensity, more like it's not already gained. I didn't win it already. You know, now I got to go and I got to fight for it in my promos. Exactly. So now it's like, if he's hungry and he gets that promo down on that night in the semifinals, he's going to be hard to beat also. So very much. So that's my thoughts on all these 6. I love these 6 guys. I can't wait to see who that, you know, QT's a funny kind of guy. So I got to wait to see who QT's going to choose. It's going to be pretty amazing.
But it was funny because I remember your brother, one of the comments that he gave to Stephen Maines, even though he had a little screw up on the top rope, he still kept his composure, did the move, and your brother noticed that. And I know that a lot of people will say, he just screwed up there. No, he kept on going. And you know what? I think that goes a long way. And
in front of 20,000 people, you know, I've been there, done that. And when you screw up a move, I've been there and done that too. And, you know, and when that happens, you just got to make sure that you keep your composure. You got to make sure, and being a heel, it's a better thing because, you know, being a heel, you could be running the ropes and you could trip on your face. And instead of going like, oh shit, I messed up, you could go like, what do you mean I messed up? What do you mean I messed up? And you could stay in your character and you can make people believe that, hey, was that part of the show or what? You know, that's what my brother Raymond noticed about Stephen Maines, which got him and also we gotta say the truth. Raymond was very impressed by his promo. You know, and his promo. And I had a lot of fun because I worked with Steve on his promo. I got to tell you the truth. I worked a little bit with all that roadmap on his abdominals. That was my idea there. And, you know, so that was fun because that brought him in another place where not everybody could look at their abdominals like that and do an interview, you know. So he's got another one prepared for the semifinals. So I think he's going to be a guy to watch.
Jeremy, your thoughts? I know you know Stephen Maines a lot. You faced Gabriele Savage, I think, just a couple of weeks ago, and the other competitors. What's your thoughts on this match?
So we don't have enough time left in this broadcast for me to give all my thoughts on all these guys. So I'm going to try and say as much of what's going around in my brain right now because I got a couple doozies for you. Okay. The first thing I want to say is I personally believe, and you can go back and bookmark this podcast, I believe in this match, there will be a winner of Wrestling Academy 2023. I guarantee it. One of these guys will win, will get $10,000, and will be going to the Nightmare Factory. Guaranteed. Now, I've had the chance to work with a lot of these guys, to either work with them in the ring or to work with them in their match planning at Wrestling Academy. I think it's pretty cool that a lot of them are coming together here for one match. And it's one thing I want to say. So if you guys are watching this, you're in Wrestling Academy. You're one of the competitors. I won this competition, and I won it pretty handily. And it blows my mind that more people don't come to me for advice. It's like, I won this. I know what it takes to win. Plus, I've been to the Nightmare Factory. I know what they're looking for. I know the things that they teach. And if you can show that in your matches, then the odds are they'll want to take you. So to the guys who are watching this, approach me, come to me. I'm here to help you.
And the women
like,
as well.
like, hold on, Frank, hold on. Like, I will give you the cheat code to the video game as to what you need to do and what you need to show. What were you going to say, Frank?
I was going to say even the women could go to you or Jessica Black as well and ask for advice as well. You guys,
yes, definitely, and some of them have, and that's what I like about this match is that I've kind of had the chance to pass on advice to a lot of them. I'm going to go with the same order that Jacques went in. We can start with Gabriel Savage because it's still fresh in my mind because I wrestled him 2 weeks ago. And of Gabriel, I've seen him work twice. And I'll be honest, like Jacques said that line that I'm definitely going to steal and probably use in a promo, probably not too long from now. But yeah, it's clear that he's not as experienced. He's a little green compared to a lot of the other guys. And I don't know if Jacques wants me to share this story, but I will because it's the truth.
Sure.
Gabriel was kind of on the bubble when they were choosing the talent for this year. And I was one of the guys who said, you know what? This business isn't all about what you do in the ring. A lot of it is what you do outside the ring too. And if he's got a ton of followers and is bringing a lot of visibility, then that's good for everybody involved in Wrestling Academy. And so I liked him right from the start. And now getting to be in the ring with him, I wanted to see what's his attitude like and what are his skills like. But really, I wanted more to see what his attitude is like. And I'll share this story. Maybe Gabriel doesn't want me to share it, but again, it's the truth. I was impressed that he was at the show early. So we were, starting the show maybe about 7:30, 8 o'clock. He was there at 3 o'clock, just like me. And right away, he was right down to business. Let's talk about what we're doing tonight. And we had a great match. We had a match. The promoter was so happy. He said, you guys executed 100% of what my vision was for this match. You made each other look good. And Gabriel was so coachable. He did everything I told him to do. And what I told the promoter was, if he just listens and is coachable, we will have a fantastic match. It'll be the best match on your show. You'll be very happy with it. And he did that. And I was very impressed by that. If he wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't be praising him as much here in this interview because I tell the truth. But he did it. And I was very impressed. And I think that if he does the same thing here and he listens and does what he's told to do, he'll be able to succeed. And also, if they have someone who's coaching the match like Jacques or myself, he'll be in good hands. So Gabriel, I wouldn't let his lack of in-ring experience be held against him because he wants to do good, and I think he has it in him. And one other thing I'll say about him is that he's the kind of guy, he sticks to what he's good at doing. He's not going to try to do something outside the box and risk making a mistake. He's going to do what he does, and he's going to do it at 100%. So I like that about him. Now we'll talk about Stephen Maines, who is one of the few people who approached me and asked me for advice. I think Maines, for his age too, he's still really young, just a ball of talent. What he does with his body, how great shape that he's in, and he's training all the time. Just go on his Facebook or on his Instagram, you see he's putting in the effort in the gym and in the dieting, which is a part that not a lot of the guys get. The gym part is easy, but the nutrition part, that's a part that's a little harder, and he's very meticulous about that stuff. And he's a great athlete. And the promos are just getting better and better. And that's a lot of the coaching. And that's a lot of what I've been helping him with too, is the promo side. He came to me for help. I'm glad to give it. So it shows me that he's coachable. And believe me, he's hungry. He wants to win. He came so close last year to winning. If you go back and watch the semifinal, it came down to either him or Chris Dillon, who was going to advance from the 6-man that they did. And it was down to one vote. I think it was Jacques' vote, and Chris Dillon got that vote. But he was close. And so I really look at him as someone that if Jacques had maybe liked him a little bit more that day and he would have advanced, it probably would have been him spending the 3 months with me in Atlanta instead of Chris Dillon. So he came really close. And this year, he's not settling for second place. He's hungry and he wants to win. So really, like this guy, and I think, like I said, this match, one of the winners is coming out of it. Now we'll talk about Bjorg, because Bjorg's someone I've not had the privilege of wrestling. I'm sure it'll happen someday, but I've not gotten to be in the ring with him. But Bjorg impressed me with how coachable he was when I was helping to put his match together at the last show. He listened to all the ideas. He executed it well. Even Jacques, gave him some great advice when we were in the ring before the show, and he applied it. And he was able to, if I use one of Jacques' terms, he was able to seduce Jacques' brother Raymond and advance to the next round. I know he didn't get my vote.
He didn't get mine either. He didn't get mine either. I had Carl Gibson, but but he did something that my brother Raymond liked.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of that came down to him taking good advice. So now it comes down to, how he's going to fare. Again, in a multi-man match, it's not a traditional one-on-one. But I think for Bjorg, and if he's listening, I'm always willing to help. But I think he sometimes gets lost in the shuffle, because last year he was in the semifinals, and Maines was in that match too, and Matt Sismir was in that match. And I think he was one of the more forgettable guys in that match. So I think what he needs to look to is how to stand out amongst these guys, where, let's face it, he's not the most athletic in this match. He's not the biggest guy. He's not the best promo. So it's about figuring out how to overcome all of those things. And the way you do it, in my opinion, is through hard work. You got to outwork the other guys. So again, if he's listening, he can always come to me for advice. I'll help anybody. But that's going to be his challenge in this match, because I think he's got a great look. I think his promo is pretty decent too. It's just going to come down to, when the bell rings, how does he separate himself from all these other great talents and stand out? And then we have Maverick Wheeler, who I'll admit, and one of the first things I said to him when I was, the coach for his match in the first round is, you're the one guy here I don't know. Like, I studied you a little bit, but I don't know you personally. I've not been on a show with you, and I've not been in the ring with you. All I know is the few videos I've seen here on YouTube of your matches. So what I liked about him were two things. One, he was extremely coachable. Like, he won me over as a human being. I was like, wow, this is a guy, like, if I had a wrestling school, he'd be a great student, because he listens and he's willing. He's one of those, you tell him to jump, he says how high. He's one of those guys, and I see a lot of myself in that, because I'm the same way. And I like that he's a fighter. He's got a lot of heart. He's kind of like Cody Brown in the last round, who was unfortunately eliminated, but put on such a good performance. He's got heart. He told me he's 33 years old. He's been doing this for a long time, maybe 10, 12 years. He wants to make it. And I think that when you're at that age and you're in the prime of your life, that you're not too far off from being on the verge of either making or breaking. So, there's a bit of desperation to his wrestling. And I like that, because you're going to work hard when this is something that it might be the only opportunity like this you get. So he wants to make the most of it. I like him, and I coached him. And I think that a lot of the tools that I gave him in that match, because he had stuff that he did, I'm not going to say specifically, but stuff that he did, which are the moves. And then I told him, well, maybe you add this, you do this at this time, you change the order and do it like that. And I think those were the things that made him stand out. And again, I know what they're looking for at the Nightmare Factory. I know what I was taught day in, day out, 6 days a week, 6 times a week for 3 months. So he took that advice, applied it, and was just such a great attitude. It's something that goes unsaid, that when you take someone out of their comfort zone, you don't know how they're going to respond. Some might be like, well, I've always done it like this, so I'm going to do it like this. And then you have to pull teeth with them. With him, he trusted me 100%, and he got through to the next round. Now, Sean Moore, I really like this guy. I tell you, he reminds me a lot of me. He's a fighter. He wants to win, and he believes in himself. And I think that when you believe in yourself, it's a powerful weapon, because you can't go into this competition and just rely on luck. You can't just, Jacques said it about Jesse, and we'll talk about Jesse in a moment. But you can't just rely on, I have these few tools, and I know they're better than other people. But sometimes your weaknesses end up standing out more than your strengths. But Sean, he's got like every aspect of the game. He's got a good body. he wrestles really well. Like he's a good athlete and he's aggressive. I love aggressive wrestling. I love when I watched it and I can say, oh wow, that almost looks real. Like to the fans in the audience, I don't doubt that they believe that what he's doing, he's really hurting the guys, and he's a fighter. Yeah. So, I love that about Sean. And I got to share the ring with Sean very briefly in Saskatchewan, but watching him work, I'm like, I'd love to get in there with him. And that's something that I think, if QT sees the same things, then that's going to be a good spot for him because, hey, even if he doesn't make it, I think he could be a good candidate to be that guy that QT decides that he wants to face when he comes to Montreal. But I see nothing but upside on Sean Moore, a guy who, left his country, who left England and came to Canada. I mean, that takes cojones to do that. Yeah. And he did that because he's passionate about this. He's been to Mexico. He's been international, and he loves the wrestling business. He's kind of a lot like Brandon Bright. It was one of the things I was telling Bobby Sharp, where I said, hey, you traded one Sean Moore for another one now in Brandon Bright in this round because he loves the wrestling business. And hey, if you love wrestling to that level, you're a good person in my book. You're someone that I want to sit with in the locker room. So yeah, a lot of upside on Sean Moore. And Jesse, I mean, Jesse is a guy I got to know. I first met him, even though he's from Toronto. I first met him in BC when we were on a show in Coquitlam, British Columbia, and we shared a shuttle bus there together. And, I knew he was in Wrestling Academy, and everyone was telling me, hey, you got to watch out for this guy, Jesse V. He's your biggest competition. And, I dismissed it because, my competition isn't Jesse V. My competition is Roman Reigns and Kenny Omega and those kinds of people, the guys on TV. That's my competition. But, no, he's a great talent and hell of a body. And what he can do in there as an athlete, I mean, Jacques said it already. He'll deliver moments that people will go home and they'll still be talking about, wow, that big guy when he dove over the rope, or when he jumped up and he kicked the guy in the head when the guy was on the top rope. He's a great athlete. I think that, like Jacques said, the one hole in his game was the promos. And I think that it's so great for Jesse, whether he wins or not. It's great that he gets to work with someone like Jacques who can fill that hole for him. That's going to be something that's just going to be great for him for his wrestling career in general. And the improvement that I've seen from Jesse last year in his promos to now, it's like night and day, which shows that he's got a good attitude, he's coachable, and I really believe he wants to win. I think that, I don't want to go too far in saying this, but I feel like Jesse was maybe a little embarrassed that he didn't win last year, especially when a lot of us, myself included, believed that he was an easy choice in his match. But again, it's not about what you do, what you've done. It's about what you do on that night, because QT is maybe not familiar with his body of work, and all he saw was that finals. So I think that Jesse is a guy that if he continues to improve on the microphone and continues to work hard as he does in the ring, he's a force to be reckoned with. And I think that it's a very strong possibility that Jesse V could be one of the winners this year of Wrestling Academy 2023.
And Jeremy, to come to think about it, you and I both had chosen Jesse last year to be one of the winners.
Yes. Oh yeah. And it was an easy choice for me. I mean,
me too. But
I never got to be in. Well, it's like you say, he's a funny guy, and it's funny because like looking at all the guys here, it's like, man, Jesse, I've never been in the ring with him, but real recognizes real, and I can see that, like, hey, this is a guy that I don't doubt every show that he's on, he's probably doing either the first or second best match on the show. He's a good worker. And I think that with Jesse, it just comes down to you need to be a hard worker in addition to being a good worker. You got to be undeniable. You can't leave it to chance and just rest on your laurels. You got to go out there and be given 100% every night. Jacques said one of the best things at the finals of Wrestling Academy last year. And, Jacques gives a great speech before every show. And he said, guys, you don't want to be going in there making mistakes. Less is more. Do something, do it well, make it mean something. Kind of like what I said about Gabriele Savage, that he less is more. What he does what he does well. It's not much, but he does it well. But then Jacques said in the finals, but tonight, more is more. You don't want to have any doubts. You don't want to go away from this and you lose and say, I could have done this, I could have done more. And I think that, for all these guys, because this is such a competitive match, you don't want to have those doubts. You're gonna have to show what you can do, show everything, put it all on the table, because I think that this match may be harder for a lot of these guys than their final match for those that do make it to the finals. So, hey, and if you guys are watching, I'm happy to help any of you guys that want to be helped. I'll give you the secrets, and I'll make sure that you do your best. And at least if you lose, well, you lost, but you lost by doing everything you could. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I know that if I don't talk about him, he'll probably get pissed off at me. Sugar Shane Pinto got a crazy ovation, the manager of Bjorg. Jacques, what's your thoughts on Sugar Shane Pinto?
My thoughts about both managers, actually, Michael Plourde also. It's I want to spend too much time because they're really good managers. They really do a great job, but they can't win nothing in this competition. The only thing they could win is a little bit of attention from QT Marshall, maybe something down the road, but there's no big prizes for them. There's no 3 months at the Nightmare Factory. So, but it's nice to have them as compliments in the show. Yes. I'm glad to give them the exposure because they're in a position where they're fulfilling their duties. They're entertaining the people. They're fun to watch. So yeah, I love them both. All the managers that came this year, we were lucky. Even Moishi was really fun. He was a priest, and he was funny. and too much we didn't see more about DC, about Magnum's father. Yes. That was there too. What a big guy, great manager. So it's always fun to have managers there to complement the show, and especially in this match, it's woof. You almost need to be like a monster with 10 eyes around your head because you got 6 men in the ring and 2 on the outside plus the referee. So it's gonna be a hell of a show. I know that for sure. Yeah. But the most important thing in that, to be honest, if I have to give any advice to the managers, it would be don't try so much that night on the finals and semifinals to steal the show, because when you're pulling the eyes on the outside, you're taking the eyes away from what's going on inside. And I think now it's a time for people that are inside the ring to shine.
Yep. I got to say real quick about Shane Pinto. I love that guy. I think that he's a fantastic manager. Hey, if I ever had to have a manager, I would take someone like Shane Pinto, unless Jacques was available, because Jacques would also be a great manager for me too.
He's gonna take that to the grave. He's gonna tell you that now. He's gonna want to be.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. They're nice guys. We're very lucky in Wrestling Academy. We're surrounded by great people.
Well, let's get on to the next match, a women's match. Casey Spinelli and Relentless Riley Rose versus Kat Von Ease and Zondra Lee. Jacques, what's your thoughts?
Wow, I'm just amazed by this. I'm amazed. Let me start. I'm going to start with Casey Spinelli, who's a veteran, I'm so happy for her. She's going to Ring of Honors next week, I think. She's going against Athena. She's giving a big break. I'm so happy for her. She sat down with the match at the quarterfinals and helped Zondra Lee tremendously, who only has 8 matches in her career, when she showed up at the quarterfinals and did so well for herself, amazingly. So Casey Spinelli, in my book, she is the one to watch with Kat Von Ease. Kat Von Ease, those 2 that are in there, because I don't even know Kat Von Ease. The only thing I know is the last time she was supposed to wrestle and her opponent pulled out there at the last minute, and so she beat up the security guard. And it was so funny because she has the showmanship. I coached her on that segment, and she went down and she delivered it right on the nose. So that's fun for me to say. And plus, Jeremy had already told me that she was a great worker. He toured with her, and she's actually Bobby Sharp's girlfriend that we talked earlier. So Kat Von Ease and Casey Spinelli are my picks on this match. And then Relentless Riley Rose, who was eliminated against Zoe Zager on the first show, we pulled her back in because of somebody that pulled out, because she had. Let me tell you something about Relentless Riley Rose. She lost just by a little bit. She didn't lose by much in the quarterfinals, but it was so funny because I got to meet her after, and we spoke, and her mom, that's so implicated in her career and everything, Colleen, and we spoke together, and they called me the next day and they asked me like, "Oh, Jacques, we're going to be in next year, so what can we do to improve?" So I told her, I said, to be honest with you, I said, there's not much to improve. I said, you did really good. I said, the only thing, the advice I could give you is like, you need to find yourself a signature move. Like, everything you were doing is like, we'll teach at a school, or that everybody could do, and she did it well. but I don't remember her for anything special, like a big move off the top rope or something like that. So the funniest thing, guys, I got to tell you, about a week after that, I started getting videos. And her mom, she's now Riley, she's climbing up the top rope. She's doing all kinds of things off the top rope. And now she just sent me a message. Her mom last week, she said, Jacques, wait till she comes back this time. She's gonna. So that's, for me, that says a lot. So I'm gonna be keeping my eyes on Relentless Riley Rose, because I'm gonna keep an eye on her. And then now the last but not least is Zondra Lee. Zondra Lee, she has 8 matches. She came into there, and I was so surprised because, I had a hard time to choose between the J&M and her. And J&M has a lot of experience, but she came in, Zondra Lee, and knowing the fact ahead of time that she only had 8 matches, sometimes it's almost like a good movie there, guys. It's, when you hear about a movie that's coming out in the theaters, and someone watched it, and then they come up to you and they say, hey, you got to watch that movie. It's the best movie in the world. It's the best. It's the best. So then you go see the movie, and it's like, it was good, but it wasn't so much hype. So that was the opposite. There was so much little said about Zondra that she only has 8 matches, so don't expect anything. And so when she came into the ring, I really didn't expect nothing. And then, man, she started running, clotheslining, and killing her opponent. And I was going like, and I know Casey Spinelli has a lot to do with that, because she coached her a lot. And so she really impressed me. And when I spoke to her before the match, she came with her dad from Ontario by car. And when I spoke to her, oh, hi, Jacques. How you doing, Jacques? And I could barely hear, and I had so little expectations. I was saying, oh my God, I hope she does good, And then when she got in that ring, man, she was like, she turned into Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, it was another story. So I'm really looking forward to see her back in the ring. I don't expect her to win the competition, but I just expect her to make another nice, beautiful impression for next year.
That's very well said. Jeremy, what's your thoughts?
Well, yeah, this is a very intriguing match because you have 2 veterans on each team, and then you have 2 less experienced people. So it's a really well-balanced match. And now that's assuming that this match doesn't get changed because of the unforeseen pullouts by other people. But if it stays the way it is, I'm curious to see how they do. And also another layer to this is you have Spinelli, who's from the Toronto area, as is Zondra, on opposite ends. And then you have Relentless Riley Rose and Kat Von Hees, who are from Alberta. So there's some familiarity between one person on one team and the other, and one person and the other. So that's kind of interesting. Now we're going to see what happens if the veterans are the ones who advance, or if maybe one of the rookies might surprise them. Because again, it's not about what Jacques or myself, and it's definitely not about what Michelle Monette wants. It's about what QT Marshall wants. So that's what makes this interesting, is that it could be one of these young bucks, one of these young pups, surprising people and having a great showing. I'll go one by one with them. I think Casey Spinelli had a pretty good showing last time. She's very talented, great presence, good on the microphone, great look. And I think she has a lot of the tools. But like I always say, when there are people who have the talent and have the experience, sometimes someone can come along and work harder than them. Hard work goes a long way too. So me, I'm a guy, I know I'm very talented. I said it last year, but one of the things that's one of my biggest talents is I work extremely hard. I want to drive the point home. I want to be like, okay, yeah, I'm really good at all these things, and I'm going to outwork you. I'm going to do it even if it's not necessary, just to drive the point home. That's what this business is about. It's about being undeniable. So I think if Spinelli is willing to work as hard as she usually is, then yeah, she should be having an easy path, to the next round. I say easy, but it also involves hard work. So maybe that's a little contradictory, but I think as long as she's willing to outwork the other people, then yeah, we could see her in the finals. I think that Riley is also a really hard worker. She doesn't have the experience, but if she took that loss as hard as she did and was right away working on improving herself with no guarantees that she would come back into the competition, then that says a lot about her too. You got to never say never in this business. And that means she started working hard again, right from that was work for Wrestling Academy 2024 that she
Yeah,
was doing, and now hopefully that work pays off for her in this year's competition. Exactly. So I like Riley. I think she's got a good attitude. I think she's very coachable. I like her promos. Actually, I found that she just ate Zoe Sager alive in the promos that she did, both the pre-match one that was put up online and the live one. So I like her promos a lot. And I think that the wrestling, as Jacques pointed out, she just needs a few more unique things to make her stand out. And I think that in a lot of times for people like her and Zondra, that you get that loss, but you get the second chance so soon. You know, you don't have to live with that regret. You don't have to live with, you know, you get that second chance. So now you want to make the most of it. So, you know, I'm curious to see what Riley's going to do this time around that's going to be different. And I think that could go a long way in the eyes of QT, because he was very impressed by how young she was and how good her skills were. I think he said that was one of the best women's matches he's seen in a long time. So now knowing those things, knowing how young she is, and he can see like a night and day, like seeing, oh, I thought she was maybe, let's say a 5 on 10, but now she looked like she's become an 8 on 10 in the span of a few months. That could go a long way to influencing his decision. And remember, if it happens, you heard it here first. Then you got Kat Von Houten. She, as we say in le bon français, donne pas sa place à personne. Like, she's going to stand her ground. And she's a fighter. She's been doing this a long time. She's a powerhouse. She's extremely strong. I've actually been in the ring with her. Jessica and I did a mixed tag match with her, so I've actually wrestled her. And yeah, I know she's extremely strong, and she is someone who is passionate about wrestling. She's traveled the country. She's wrestled in the United States. And again, I think it comes down to the work that she puts in. And maybe she's a little upset that last time she didn't get to have a match. So now she'll want to make up for it. But I think as long as she's willing to put in the work, she'll stand out one way or another. I think that the promo is decent. I think that she's got a good look, and the ring work, well, it's going to come down to how much work she puts in, because it's not about what you've done before. It's about what you do on that night.
That's right.
I think it might even be the first time QT is seeing her, because he wasn't at the last show. So you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. So she's going to have to seize that moment and show what she's all about to QT and to the fans in Montreal. And then Zondra, like Jacques said, you know, she was very surprising. I'd actually rank her skills a little bit higher than Riley Rose for someone who has arguably less experience, because Riley, you know, she wrestles almost every week. Zondra only had 8 matches at that point, so she probably hadn't started in wrestling as soon, but definitely wants to make the most of this opportunity. And yeah, I think that she, wow, I mean, she, with all of us, myself, Jacques, and Raymond, we all had a hard time saying, is it going to be her, or is it going to be Nikita, or Jane M, as Jacques likes to call her? And the fact that Jane is a veteran of many, many years, and now someone with 8 matches put them on the bubble, and who are we going to choose? And I think experience was the only reason we didn't choose her, because to me, they were about equal in there. So I think Zondra is full of surprises. I think she's a little firecracker in there. She's almost like a Zoe Sager in her own way, where, you know, you see the timid, you know, humble girl backstage, and then in the ring, she's punching and kicking and running. And so it's a nice combination of experience and youth. And I think this match, again, you heard it here first, there might be a big surprise that comes out of this, because Jacques always says QT is a funny guy, and maybe he might want to go with youth instead of experience here. Who knows what happens?
Well, it was a nice story, because I didn't know if she was only 7 or 8 matches in, up until Jacques said it when he was commenting on the match. So it never occurred to me that she, maybe in my eyes, it didn't occur to me that she did have 7 or 8 matches. She impressed me. Just goes to show anything can happen in Lutte Academie, and we're gonna have to wait and see what's gonna happen in the semifinal.
And I'll say this, Frank. Sometimes it works in your favor that, you know, someone can see you and then they say, like, oh, well, they've only had a few matches, but they're this good. That's potential. That's a diamond in the rough that we can teach the rest to. And as Jacques says, they don't have the bad habits, and they're already doing a lot of the things right that it takes us sometimes years to teach people. So believe me, that match, an upset can happen.
Wow. I can't wait to see it. The next match, Michael Richard Blais versus Chad Daniels. I've seen Chad Daniels last year. Kyle Morin, our co-host, called him Chiseled Chad Daniels. But Michael Richard Blais really impressed me. My eyes are really open for him. Jacques, what do you have to say about this match?
Well, it's going to be if we're going to shoot straight here, let's shoot straight. That's there's no gray zone with me. So I got to tell you that there's a few things here that I'm going to say. If I start saying by Michael Richard Blais, Michael Richard Blais, he, like my brother Raymond, he described him as one of the young Jake the Snake Roberts. He's got them. He's got the character. He's got the microphone presence incredibly. He's got the knowledge in wrestling. He's got a wrestling school. He's a bad boy in the ring. He's a hard one to take out of place there. It's but there's things that there is some things that work against him. Like example, trying to get a promo out of him. It's hard to get a promo out of him. He's such a busy man, so he's the kind of guy that has this confidence in him and has this presence in him that makes it it's going to depend on how hard he works that night. It's going to depend on how hard, and there's more into wrestling than just being in the ring. There's the presence of showing that you still want to make it. And stuff. So I'm going to wait to see how QT looks at this with him, on that side with him. The knowledge and all that, he's got it, everything like that. Now it's to see how hungry he is, and that I can't wait to see. Now, if you want to put the picture back up there, if you don't mind, because I like talking to the guys when I see them. So everybody would say Michael Richard Blais a favorite in this one, but I'm not. I'm going to say that I'm not so sold on that yet, because here's two things. Michael Richard Blais is not a young guy there. I don't know how old he is, but I assume he's near 37, 38 years old maybe. I don't know him that much. Don't know him at all, actually, just from the last show and what I'd heard about him. But Chad Daniels, for me, last year, was a really good wrestler, had a good presence. He had the Jacques Rougeau drop kick there off the second top rope there. I saw a lot myself into this kid, and then he came back this year, and with about a 30 or 40% improvement from last year. And then he's young and he's good looking, and he picked up a lot of confidence in him. So, depending on what QT is going to be looking for, am I going to go with a guy like Michael Richard Blais, who has all the experience, he's ready to put in the ring and then perform and have his chance? Or is he going to go with a guy, Chad Daniels, that is young, that's coachable, because he knows he's coachable, everything has improved since last year? So I'm not going to go as easily as everybody else and say that Michael Richard Blais is the favorite for sure. I'm going to say on this one, I'm a funny kind of guy too, So I'm going to say let's wait and see before I wouldn't gamble on this match.
Jeremy, I know. I think we talked about you being in the ring with Michael Richard Blais a couple of occasions. Chad Daniels, he was in the competition last year. What are your thoughts on this match?
Well, I've wrestled Michael Richard Blais, met him for the first time and wrestled him in Vancouver a couple of months ago. And I was one of the people who strongly recruited him into Wrestling Academy because I hear names throughout Canada. It's one of the things that I do. If I say I'm going to be the best in Canada, I want to fight whoever people will say are potentially better than me or as good as me. And I meet a lot of frauds. I meet a lot of people that it's like, okay, people say you're good, but you just have a lot of people who've only seen you. I want to go to your territory, which is maybe an easy territory, and show that you're just a big fish in a small pond. I want to show that, if people see you and you're their favorite wrestler, well, then now they see Jeremy Prophet, and Jeremy Prophet becomes their favorite wrestler. I want to take your fan base. And if you're really as good as you say you are, then we will have a fantastic match, and the people will be treated to an excellent show. But if you're a fraud, then you're in for a rude awakening if you step in the ring with me. I'll take you into some very deep waters, and people will never look at you the same. So that's how I felt about Michael Richard Blais. Everyone's talking about MRB, Chucky Blais, Michael Richard Blais. So I said, I welcome the opportunity to step in the ring with you. But I'll say this, he is one of the few that I got in there with, and he lived up to every bit of his hype. And I'll go as far as to say, I personally feel as a wrestler, now we're talking just wrestling, we're not talking everything else, but just bell to bell, the wrestling, I'll say he's as good of a wrestler as me. And that's a big compliment. I probably wouldn't have that compliment for anybody else in Canada, but he's as good of a wrestler as me. But it takes more than just wrestling to win Wrestling Academy. You have to have the promo ability. You have to have the body, the character. You have to have a lot more things. So I think a lot of people remember the match he had with Cody Brown, and it was a great wrestling match. Jacques said it was one of the greatest matches in Wrestling Academy. I still believe that my match with Kyle Zachary was far superior, but I digress. It takes more than just the wrestling. And I know that at the Nightmare Factory in QT, he looks for more than that. So I don't think it's a sure thing that MRB is going to just steamroll over Chad Daniels. Now I'll talk about Chad because he was one of my first round opponents. We had a 6-man tag that involved Chad. And Chad at that point, I don't even know if Jacques was aware of this, but Chad was kind of like what we just talked about with Zondra, that he had maybe less than 10 matches at that point. But if you watch that match, you would, what was that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he had less than 10 matches by his own admission. And if you watch that match, you would never be able to tell that was his experience level, because Chad listened. He followed everything I told him, kind of like what I said about Gabriele Savage a little earlier. He just listened. He followed well. And I personally believe I made him look like $1 million in there. I remember Jacques calling me the next day and saying that you and Chad Daniels, the stuff you did in there, he was so good. I think this guy, he's going to be one of the ones to look out for. I think he's got a great chance of going to the Nightmare Factory. And that was in the first round with someone who had less than 10 matches experience, but was able to follow along and look great. So now he's in a bit of a similar situation where he has someone who, by my own admission, as good of a wrestler as me. So if he can rise to that same level again, he might end up pulling off a surprise. And what I like about Chad this time around is he has worked on improving. He's improved his wrestling. He's improved his body. He's got a great physique. Chiseled Chad Daniels. We kind of laughed at chiseled Chad Daniels last year, but this year he really is chiseled. He's got one of the better bodies in this competition, and he's improved the promo as well. And if I can be crude in saying this, I think he's a little pissed off from not winning last year. And to me, I like when you have that chip on your shoulder. I like it. No, I like seeing when guys have a chip on their shoulder. And I think that's one of the interesting dichotomies between these two is, Michael Richard Blais, I joked with him in the locker room and I said, I'm the kind of guy in last year's competition, I studied everybody. I wanted to know everything about my competition. I went and watched their matches and went on their social medias. I wanted to just have all of that information because you don't know who you're going to get paired up with. And I'm like, I feel you're like that kind of guy in school that doesn't study for the test and still manages to go out and get, 95% on it. I'm like, I bet you don't know anything about anybody here. You didn't do anything. You just came in and do what you usually do here in Canada. And he was like, yeah, that's pretty much it. And, I find it kind of funny because, you can be very talented, but I think sometimes hard work beats talent. It's an expression that people say all the time that, hard work defeats talent that refuses to work hard. So I think that MRB here, he definitely has the talent. There's no doubt in my mind. He has more talent than Chad Daniels, goes without saying. But hard work sometimes beats talent. So if Chad is watching this and, he's as hungry to win as I believe he is, then I think he's going to work his ass off to be able to pull off what some people would call an upset. But I actually think this one's a lot closer than most people think.
Well, there you have it from Jeremy Prophet and Jacques Rougeau. That's the semifinal on August 20th. Unfortunately, it is sold out, but you'll be able to see it in a couple of days after August 20th on lutteacademy.ca, wrestling-academy.ca to watch it after and to get your tickets for the finals as well. Go to the site, go to Facebook. Jacques, you want to say something?
Yeah, I want to say something. It's very important too, because, I always watch the show after on the website because there's a reason for that. Because when you're live at the show, after every match, when the winners go down backstage, they do a promo, they do an interview, you know, and we don't see that live because it's happening backstage. So when you watch the show, plus we edit all the mistakes that we did in the show. Like, you know, so that's called editing. That's the fun thing about not being live. So what the show is a lot better when you edit it, you know, the angles of the cameras and everything. So you may be the lucky ones that don't have tickets. So wait about 4 or 5 days after the 20th of August. Go on wrestling-academy.ca or lutteacademie.ca. Go watch the show. Go watch the backstage interviews, which are absolutely awesome, with Martin Villeneuve, the guy who's doing the interviews the last show. He's just so funny. He reminds me of the Lion in the Wizard of Oz. But anyway, he's like, but you know, he's such a great. I swear to God, if I had a business, you know, and I was on TV, I'd have him doing my promos backstage because he gets into the characters and he does a lot of empathy and he brings you into it. I got a great crew. I got Jessica Black that's in the ring, who won Wrestling Academy last year, Jeremy's girlfriend, and I got you there working with her where you guys are going at each other's throat, you know, once in a while, which is really entertaining for the show. I got, you know, we can't go without saying what a great team I got, you know, as far as Manucam, you know, the production company, and Philippe Vaillancourt, you know, from Posa, the houseboat who brings the buffet.
We can't forget about Bruno.
I'm sorry?
We can't forget about Bruno.
No, I'm not there yet. So I'm thinking about it. I'll get there. Don't worry. But I want to thank about Philippe Vaillancourt, because with Posa, La Maison Stéphane Fallu, you know, I'm working with them a little bit too, with the raising money all the time, helping kids on the street and all that. But he also brings the buffet for the wrestlers every show. He brings a big buffet at 3:00 in the afternoon. So, and now going with you guys, you know, I'm going to tell you, it's so funny because we have a running gag with Bruno and Frank there, because I never tell them apart. Every time it was so funny. Every show I get there, I say, "How you doing, Bruno?" And then he looks at me and says, "I'm Frank. I'm not Bruno." And it's funny. I always confuse you guys. Don't ask me why. But Bruno, and let me tell you something. It's amazing what you're doing with QT Marshall when he's in Atlanta, putting him on the giant screen and all the technicalities, and putting my brother Raymond on the giant screen, and going from when we do the commentaries around the ring and then the match is over, then you put us live in the place where people hear us, and there's so much things that are amazing what you guys are doing. So yes, what a great team we have, and then how can we forget Natalie, my girlfriend, who's behind the scenes everywhere. She's there from receiving the people at the Club Soda to helping me with the matches, helping me with the thoughts, helping me with the putting the signs up for the sponsors, and she's such a great partner for me. And then again, I want to finish off. If you have a chance to go on Wrestling-Academy or lutteacademie.ca, go see our sponsors, because the sponsors are the one who are giving $60,000 this year for the plane tickets, the hotels, the three $10,000 prizes. It's amazing. That would never happen if we didn't have the sponsors. And Jeremy, thank you so much for participating at ringside, making me look so bad, you know, as a commentary. And then you look so good.
Wow. Jeremy?
Yeah, no, hey, look, we're all a team, and that's why this is successful, is that, you know, we kind of come together like Voltron. You know, we were able to all do our things, do our jobs so well, and it gives the people such a great show. I mean, it's a shame that we're sold out, but hey, if you get a chance to go to the finals where there are still some tickets available, you're going to get a hell of a show. You got the best wrestlers from all over Canada. You got an entertaining night that's not like any other show you go to. You can go see a wrestling show, any wrestling show. You can go watch AEW and you get a wrestling show. But with this, you get a competition. You get to experience real emotions. There are real winners, real losers. And it's something that is a night of good, clean wrestling, along with the drama and the anticipation of what is going to happen. So it's a show unlike any other anywhere in the world.
It's so amazing, Jeremy, this show. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to finish off by saying so amazing, because not only you fans are there looking at the giant screen to see the decision, but also us as commentators. You know, we're doing the commentaries and we're looking at the screen and we're not even sure like who's going to win. So yes, the wrestling is a show, you know, but the contest is real and the emotions are real. So from one day, you've been training for 9 months for this competition. You're going to start crying because you're going home because you were kicked out, or you're going to start crying because you're making it to the next round. And, you know, those emotions you can't buy nowhere else.
That's true. That's true. And you know what? I cannot wait for August 20th. Guys, it's been a pleasure. We already have lutteacademie.ca, lutte-academy.ca to go see the other quarterfinal, the part 1 and part 2, and the backstage interviews as well. Follow Jacques Rougeau on Facebook to see a lot of the updates, especially on Lutte Academie Facebook page. Jeremy, would you like to tell everybody where they can find you? I haven't heard this spiel in a while, so.
Yeah, and I'm sure you can put it on the screen too, but it's always the same. You can follow me on Twitter at Jeremy Prophet, JeremyProphet. You can follow me on Instagram at The Real Jeremy Prophet, and you can see me, just about all the time here on Jofo in the Ring, the #1 wrestling podcast in Quebec.
I want to say one or two things that are very important to me. I want to say thank you again to QT Marshall for giving the 3 months to the 3 winners for free. With Cody Rhodes being a teacher, with Billy Gunn being a teacher, QT Marshall being a teacher. Those are some of the 3 best wrestlers in the world right now that are teaching my winners for 6 days a week, or 5-6 days a week for 3 months. Then what a price by QT Marshall, and him coming to Montreal on the 17th of September to give his body to be in the ring to wrestle one of the guys he eliminated during the competition. It's just absolutely amazing. And so thank everybody. And if I forgot someone, I'm so sorry. But I just know that l'union fait la force. And, Rome wasn't built in one day, and it wasn't built by one person. And I think we're creating a Rome right now, all of us together. And the last thing I'll say too, it's the 3rd time I say it's the last thing, but it's the last thing, is like a lot of people say, they tell me, they say, Jacques, why don't you put a real commentator there instead of you? Keep Jeremy there, and put a real one there. And, I'm just going to finish by saying that when I put this whole thing together, it's because I wanted to have fun and I wanted to live my passion. So if I do that, I'm going to be pulling myself out of the best time of my life. So don't listen to me do the commentaries. Just watch the content and watch the show. It's amazing.
That's very well said. You know what, Jacques? It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Jeremy, I'm your #1 fan. You know that. Love you, buddy. It was great to see you on AEW Collision. Hope to see you again on AEW in the future. We'll see everybody August 20th. And remember, wrestling is life.
So, Jofo, up a gargle shot for Kurt Hennig, everybody, before we go.
Oh, no.
Jofo, thank you guys.